Hi folks, my perspective here. I want to have a chat to you about perspective. You see, we know that the art of perspective is the art of representing three-dimensional objects on a two-dimensional surface. But in reality, perspective goes a lot deeper than that. You see, for me, perspective is an amazing thing, and I'll tell you why. The Creator, the Bible says his name is Jehovah. He's the creator of the human eye. We see in perspective. So what the Creator has done is his perspective is his laws and his standards. It's his principles. He's put his standards in our eye. We see according to God's standards. That is what perspective is. So from your perspective, if you put up a plumb bob, a plumb line, and the Creator puts up a plumb line, it's at the same angle. Your plumb line will be in line with the Creator's line, upright. And that's what perspective is. It's the Creator's standards and his principles in my eye. That's why perspective is such an important thing. Understanding perspective is like peering and looking into the Creator's heart and mind. People don't get it. So artists have long understood this, that what is upright is always upright. No matter how far away something is from you, it's always upright. This is a constant principle. It never changes. It never changes. What is upright always is upright from your position. And we're going to have a look at this in a bit of detail. So what is constant? It is what is upright. It's a constant feature of perspective. So artists have long understood this and applied the principles in perspective. If you understand perspective, it's going to help you understand the world that you live in, and it's going to help you see things according to the Creator's standards. Perspective is the laws of the Creator. It's his standard, and it never changes. It is constant. So a plumb line from your position, no matter how far it goes into the horizon, it is always upright. It'll help you understand when the Creator says, for example, about Job, that he was a man that was upright and consistent. Now in the world that we're living in, it's not like that. You see, every man has his own plumb line. He sets his own standard and walks according to his own plumb line. He's upright in his own heart and mind. But that's not according to the Creator's standard of what is upright. That's not perspective. Now, perspective can also help you understand passages in the Bible. For example, in Ezekiel, he sees this enormous chariot. And this enormous chariot has this flat, glass-like sea structure in front of it. And this chariot's enormous. Now, it's how this chariot moves. And if you read Ezekiel, and you pay attention to how the chariot moves, the principle applied to perspective applies to how this chariot moves. And the standard is the same. How the chariot moves is perspective. The standards is the same standard that's in the human eye. So when the chariot moved, it never turned. It moves in a straight line. It doesn't turn. And this chariot's enormous, so it tells you a lot about the ground, the earth that this chariot's moving over. The chariot's always upright. It moves this way and that way, and it moves in a straight line. It moves up straight. Well, that's how the human eye sees. The standard and the principles that we see in Ezekiel's chariot and the principles in perspective, the same standard. It's from the Creator. The Creator's plumb line is straight. We have to get our thinking in line with the Creator's thinking. and not walk off in our own way and set our own standards of what is upright. That's why Jehovah says, he says his eyes are roving about in all the earth to look for those whose heart is upright toward him. Maybe now you can understand that scripture a bit better if you understand perspective. Now, artists have long understood this and applied the principles of perspective in art. Remember, these are the Creator's standards in our eye. This is how we see. In this picture, right, it's not my drawing, buildings are upright, the horizon is flat. Your position may change, and your body may turn, and the airplane may turn, but the standard is the same. The principle of being upright is constant, never changes. And we'll have a look at that later on. Now, many years ago, artists like Michelangelo Buonarroti, they went and worked for the Medici family, the powerful families in those times. They understood perspective, but the teachings of perspective and how they mixed their colors and how they mixed their paint was guarded. They were secrets. They were not allowed to spread this information out. So for many years, perspective was a guarded secret for the elite. But as more artists came along, they applied the principles in perspective. They understood perspective and they applied those principles in their art and in their drawing. So ships that are upright, well, a ship may lean over because of the weight and the wind blowing it, but it's always upright. So ships on the horizon don't sink or fall below the horizon. What is crooked cannot be made straight. We don't see ships falling over behind the curve of the horizon. We don't see buildings falling over. So people will say, well, there's a building that's upright, but there's a big curve in front of it. Well, we're going to deal with this in another video, but right now we're going to focus on perspective. So when I say it's my perspective, all I'm saying is it's the Creator's standards in my eye. William Turner, an amazing artist. Your perspective line is, the ship here is rocking. It's below the horizon line. So the ships on the horizon are above the horizon and just get smaller on the horizon. So your positioning according to the horizon may vary, but what is upright is always upright. And artists understood this. You see, these artists, they were all flat earthers because they understood what was going on. And if you understand perspective, it just changes the way you look at things. You're looking at the world now according to the Creator's standard, which He put in your eye. He didn't abandon us to our own thinking. He put His standards in our eye. We're just not paying attention. So ships smaller, just get smaller on the horizon, and the water's flat. Doesn't curve. Now the principles of perspective are also found in light and shadow. So if I look at this balloon, I look at the shadow, and if I apply the principles of perspective in this image, well, then the sun is not 150 million kilometers away. The sun is close by. If I apply the principles in perspective, I know the sun is close by. Because I've been trained in it and spent my whole life looking at it. And I'm not going to apologize for speaking the truth. So where the light source is, and the distance between the light and the object, perspective applies to light. And that's the amazing thing. Is if you understand light and you understand perspective, your appreciation and your love for the Creator will grow. It's an astounding thing. When Satan said to Eve in the Garden of Eden, you will become like God, what a lie. The Creator's ways are so above ours that we could never hope to understand them. We could never hope to be like Him. We can imitate Him. And He's put His standards in our eye. That's it. Now, let's take for example, you have some funny money, right? We're living in a funny system, but you have fake money. It's not your fault. You take the money and you go and buy goods and you do things. You don't know that the money is fake. But now a banker or someone who deals with money comes and he points it out to you and says, listen, this money is fake. It's got to be destroyed. What is fake is going to be destroyed by the Creator. It's just going to happen. So, as an artist, I've studied art, studied fine art, and I've spent my whole life filming and painting. So, when I look at the picture on the right, that's the reality. And I know from the picture on the right that the water is flat. Because if the water was curved and the sun is 150 million kilometers in front of you, the light from the sun cannot curve around the water. So the water would be black. Now the blue water on the ocean is solid. It means the blue water in the sky is solid. The sky is solid. That's why it reflects the light the same as it reflects the light in the water. The principle applies to both. If the sky above wasn't solid and it was just gas like we are taught, well, then at sunset it will be black. You see, how can you turn around now at night time and you see the stars behind you where it's black, and now the gas just dissolves, and in the front of you it's solid blue. The sky is solid, the same as the water is solid. They reflect the light the same. It could be that because of the training you receive as an artist helps you. But I think your love for the Creator and how much you pray to Him and talk to Him about how much you see plays a big part in how you see the real world. Most people think they pray, say, oh, I do. Most people don't thank the Creator and say, open my eyes and show me. They can't be, because why are they seeing a fake world? So if the sun's behind you, or the sun's in front of you, its light cannot reflect behind the curve. The water has to be flat. Now, the word perspective, right, can also apply to a particular attitude towards or a way of regarding something. Perspective, so it's how we see things, it's the Creator's laws in our eye. That was what perspective, but it has to do with your attitude. So in the world, we see that humans' attitudes are way off in this regard as well. And people will gossip and backstab and be backbiters. Look at you funny because you're not the same as them. Yet, the Jehovah's perspective, it says he finds pleasure in men who love him and try and do what's right. This is the Creator's perspective. It's loving, he protects those who love him, and he's kind. We're just not looking. If you look, you'll see. And you can't just look at something without praying about what you're seeing. You have to ask the Creator to help me see clearly what I'm seeing. And just people are not doing that, unfortunately. Now this picture, this is a famous picture. The photographer who took this, he won an award. Right? But this is the perspective of Satan. Because of his perspective, the whole of humanity, and we're all suffering. Now the interesting thing is that this artist won an award, and a few months later he committed suicide. And he said to other people that it worried him so much. Whether he committed suicide because of this, I don't know. But the point is that he didn't help. He took the photograph and he knew it was an award-winning photograph. But he didn't feed this little boy. They learned later that it was a little boy, and they said it was a little girl, but that's not the issue. And people say to me, why do you worry about flat earthers? Well, all I have is a piece of bread, and I can chase the vultures away. And if I don't give that. That's not how we were creative. That's not how we were created. We were created, God's laws is our bones. His loving kindness is our flesh. His name is our heart, and His will is in our blood. That's who we are. That's how we were created. If we don't act on how we are as humans, then we might receive an award from men, but we're not going to get an award from the Creator. So I would rather do what I know is right, and I'll be rewarded by the Creator, not by men. Now I want to show you something that I call real perspective and real perspective. So real perspective, is we see things upright. Now I want you to imagine that you could fly, right? And you had a camera strapped on your head. So what does the eye see? What does the camera see? And we're going to compare the two. You see, real perspective, R-E-E-L, that's what I call the Hollywood perspective. And I'll show you what I mean. Real perspective is the Creator's standards that's in our eye, how we were created. So in real perspective, if you could fly and you moved your position, what is upright stays upright. That never changes. Your position and your angle changes. So now the camera is filming, right? And this is what your eye sees. Your eye sees things always upright. Your eye, they don't see things falling over. Now you take the video, and now you look at the video. What does the video show? Does it show this? No. It's reversed. In other words, the perspective turns around you. You become what is fixed. In real perspective, the first one, the earth is fixed. From the camera's perspective, this is what happens. This is the Hollywood perspective. And the lesson is, in real perspective, puts the Creator in the center. The Hollywood perspective puts you in the center. Your perspective becomes distorted. And that's what the world does. It distorts our perspective, the way we see things. Our heart is not upright towards the Creator in this Hollywood world that we live in. So the comedy just goes on, and they'll tell you, well, the world is yours. Well, no thanks. You keep it. You made it. You go live in it. You can be so impressed with it that you bow down and worship it. I'm not going to follow you. I'll live in the real world. It's a wilderness right now. Not many people in it. And it's a harsh world. But I know that Jehovah says that when He returns, He is going to set matters straight. Do you understand that statement? The Creator said He's going to set matters straight. He tells us in the Scriptures that He's going to level the land. And He's going to hold an accounting with the land. And when He does, it's going to be awe-inspiring. But when it's over, those who love Him will survive. And this wilderness will be turned into paradise. So I hope this helps you out. And to the real flat earthers out there, love and respect always. Keep it real. And we know that there are many people making the water dirty. And the Jesuits have their hand in everything, making everything ugly and dirty. And we know that, unfortunately. But respect and peace to you, and hang in there. Thanks for watching.